Hello, I am Allar Luik from Estonian Private Forest Center. Today I'm giving you an overview on what expectations foresters have on remote sensing. Unfortunately, I cannot be online today and this is a pre-recorded presentation. Therefore, I can't answer to any questions right now, but if you wish to contact me, my email is shown in the last slide. In regard of our forestry, it is often said that we have so much information already that there isn't a lot of need for remote sensing from satellites at least. And as we visit our forests quite often, this might be partially true. However, we will always want better and more accurate information and we want it more often. Therefore, we are always looking what data we can get from satellites to help us in our everyday work. So in the first part of this presentation, I will give you an overview on what data and information we already have of our forests from other sources of remote sensing. And in the second part of the presentation, I will show you some examples on where sentinel images could be or already are used today in forestry. So in Estonia, if you wish to harvest a forest, you need to have forest inventory data. Here we can see example of what this forest inventory data is. It is collected in on-site measurements, just a person visiting the forest and measuring all the information that they get. We can see the site type. It means the soil type of the forest. We can see what kind of tree species there are, what's the percentage of the tree species. Also the age, height and diameter of the trees, the basal area of the trees, and this gives us an overview of what is the volume of the forest or timber volume in the forest. Also, if there are any dead trees or trees that have fallen on ground, then we can see some information here. And in addition to that, if the person measuring the forest wants to make any comments, they can also add comments over here. There is also a nationwide statistical forest inventory, but that cannot be used for single compartment information. At best, it could be used at county level. We have also aerial images and LiDAR mapping in Estonia, as you are well aware of. So I'm not going to stop exactly on this topic, but I'm going to show some pictures of what foresters look from aerial images. Here is an orthophoto, and we can see, for example, the types of the roads, the existence of drainage pipes over here. We can see that there's not much water in the ditches, so the forest quality is good. There shouldn't be too soft conditions. From the left, we can see that there's probably a young birch stand. It needs some thinning. And in the right, we can also see the condition of the forest. It's most likely grown up or at least middle-aged mixed forest with spruce, maybe pine and birch or aspen. Here is an example of an aerial image taken from an angle. To some extent, we can see the condition of the clear-cutting area. We can see that something is growing over there, but we still need to visit the site to understand what is growing and how well it is growing, or if we need to plant more trees. Here we can see a map based on LiDAR mapping. It shows the height of the trees. On this spot, the height of the trees is 32 meters. It can also be used for understanding forest conditions. So this slide and previous slides showed that we already have a lot of information about our forests. But now let's look what information we can get from Sentinel images. Here we can see a comparison of forest compartment, and we can clearly see that in the older photo the forest is growing, and in the newer photo the forest has been clear cut. Clear cutting can be quite easily monitored from Sentinel-2 images. In many countries where illegal logging is a problem, it is used a lot to find those areas. In Estonia, luckily, it's not a big problem. However, if we want to check for thinnings, that means a work where about 30% of the trees are cut down to provide better growing conditions for the remaining trees, then we have a problem. The changes in thinning are so small that it's almost impossible to detect them. In Finland, they have tested detecting thinnings, and they have gotten so many false positive and false negative results that they found out that they cannot use Sentinel-2 images for thinning detection. Perhaps we would need slightly better resolution to detect thinnings. Sentinel images could be used for detecting forest damage. They are suitable for monitoring some changes in forest. However, I do think that they should always be combined with on-site monitoring or aerial photos. Also, automatization is difficult due to large scale of variables, and they could be a useful tool for forest owners who live away from the forest. For example, if the forest owner visits their forest twice a year to monitor it, maybe they could one time check it from the Satiladu or Sentinel photos, and then other time just visit the forest. So they would save time and money. In the next slide I will have some examples. On this image we can see the same forest area in 4 years. The green areas are from the end of May or from June, and the red image is taken this year, and it's the latest suitable clip that was taken from 13th of April. Here we can see a small dot in 2019, and we can see that it clearly expands the next year. It even slightly more expands to the west in 2021, and it's slightly difficult to say if it has expanded this year also. Now, what this change is. Let's look at the next picture. Here we can see that the spruce trees have dried up, and it's most likely the work of a spruce bark beetle. It's a common beetle in our forests and part of our ecosystem, but in recent years there have been many outbreaks that lead to these dried up areas where the trees are dead. The damage in this area became visible in the year where there were no aerial photos. The forest owner could have received the first warning from the satellites. We know that in this one case the forest owners have done nothing to prevent the spread of the bark beetle outbreak. But in similar case and some other forest owner, they could have started earlier with the preventive measures. And regarding this, the product Satiladu is quite easy to use tool for such a forest owner, where they can just compare images from their forest with only a few clicks. However, and as it is a pre-recorded presentation, I don't know what solutions have already been presented today, but I think that detection of such forest damages can currently work only with when human analyzes the data. Our forests change within weeks. The leaves grow and fall, vegetation grows. There are many different combinations of tree species. And it all means that it's difficult to make one model that would find out one specific change in the forest. But now let's move on from old forests to young forests. As you know, when old forest is cut down, new trees are planted. And sometimes people ask if remote sensing or satellites would be suitable for monitoring these young plants. Sometimes the plants might die within the first years because of dry weather or some disease or bugs that are attacking. And I would say that in regarding of remote sensing, only drones can be used for monitoring these kind of plants. As you can see, it's difficult to see this plant from this picture. Of course, it's not possible to see it from Sentinel-2 images. However, satellites still might be useful for young stands. Young plants need cutting the vegetation around them in the first years after they are planted. It is usually done in the autumn when the leaves have fallen down. However, in some cases, if the ground is fertile and depending on the weather and rain, this should be done twice per year and the first time in the middle of the summer. It normally requires the forester to visit the forest and check if the work needs to be done. However, perhaps some kind of an automatic detection or recommendation could be tested based on the clear-cutting areas. The system would check changes on the months of May and June on the clear-cutting areas, and if there are notable changes, it could alert the forest owner. It would serve the purpose of increasing efficiency in the forestry sector. But now I will move on to the last slide. Satellite images can be used in the moment together with other data. They are a valuable toolkit that can be used in combination with other data to make better forestry decisions. We must keep in mind that forestry is a conservative field where some things can take time to get used to. Thankfully, SATIRADU is a relatively easy to use system that works like many other forestry info systems, and I have recommended it to many forest owners to test it out. Maybe they can find out some solutions that we in the office haven't found out yet. Thank you. I can't answer to your questions in the moment, but if there is anything that you would like to clarify, you can write me on my email that you can see in the bottom of the slide. Thank you and have a nice evening. Bye.